Hey guys, this is Akash Rajput and welcome to the universe of component series. So in the last series, we learned about workspace anatomy and after that we created our very simple Hello World custom project which we modified further and included one more outer box button component provided by ServiceNow. So today, what we are going to learn is that how we can get logged in user details and how we can get this detail showed into our custom component. So as we are all ServiceNow developers, so we know that all these things can be easily obtained in client side as well as server side of ServiceNow. But how we can obtain these information on component side? And once that is done, we will call our API to fetch data from ServiceNow, and then we will show those data to system. So let's start. So here what we are having is our previous our awesome component code where we have created one h1 tag and then we have included our now button, and inside this now button we have created one on click event, and on that on click event we have just logged one simple message that yay, our awesomeness is clicked, and it worked pretty well. So let's see how it works in the system and then we will progressively move ahead. Let's see in the system first. So here is our component that has been rendered on our agent workspace. As soon as I click, so it has logged this message, yay, awesomeness is clicked. So this works pretty well till now. But what we can do is instead of just providing this React, we can also work in the way that what ServiceNow has provided. So for that, instead of just having this on clicked event here, I can remove this one, and inside this action handler in create custom component, I can register one action, and for this for button this now button, ServiceNow has already created one action. So for that it's now button hash collect. Now once this action is occurring, I can call any function. So here I need to provide that function name which is going to handle this event. So let's say handle button clicked. So I'll call this event this name. And now what I can do is I can register that action handler button here. Async function handle button clicked. And as we know that whenever we are handling any event in this way, so there is an event pass. So we can call that event as co-effects. ServiceNow call it as co-effects. But if you want, you can use your event name or custom element E or anything else. That will also work. Now let's just say log yay awesomeness collect. Also, let's also log this co-effects, and let's see what kind of things it produce in the log. Let's save this one and now deploy this. For deploy, now CLI deploy -f. Now it is trying to deploy it over machine. Now see that this has been deployed successfully. So let's go back to our system and let's reload it. It is being reloaded. Let us clear this console. Let's click on this one. So it says that yay awesomeness. Let's go up. It says that yay awesomeness clicked, and here it's our co-effect, or we should say that effect button. Okay. So here these are the things that ServiceNow provides out of box, that properties, state. So if you are familiar with React, so you can understand about this these two things, state and properties. Then here are some of the functions that ServiceNow has provided us for our help. That is, one is that dispatch and update properties and update state. So we will understand about what is dispatch and how we can work on update state, and what kind of work we can work with the state and properties one. Okay, so let's move ahead. Moving ahead, so we saw some of the helper functions there, and one of the helper function is dispatch. So the dispatch helper function is used to dispatch any event from any function. So let's say here I am saying that log, let's say log go effect, and I'm saying that log go effect handler. Okay, so I have created one more co-effect. Let me name it as correctly log co-effect. So this event will trigger this function, but from where we can trigger this event? So instead of logging co-effect here, what we can do is we can pass we can call this co-effect handler like this, co-effect dot dispatch. Now this dispatch actually accept two arguments. One is the name of the effect that we want to call. Second is the data. In this case, it is empty. So we just call the name. Now let's also describe the function for this handler. And in the log, let's say I'm being called from another handler function, and again let's log coeffects, and now it's time to deploy it again on the system. So now it is updating all those library source script and components. So it is done now. Let's reload it. So it is getting reload now. It is reloaded. So let's click this one. So it says that yay, awesomenet click, and then our another log message that I'm being called from another handler function, and then our event data. So we are good that we understand that how these things, how we can easily call another action or another event from another handler function. Now let's understand the state. In React, basically state is nothing. State is the data storage where we store all of our data that we need to reuse inside a component. So what we can do is, let me just remove this one line, and let's say let's create a very simple counter handler. So let's say that I'm having a div. It says that counter is counter or timer. Okay, and let's utilize ES6 syntax to get this timer from state variable. Okay, so if there is any state timer variable inside or timer object inside this state, then it will be copied here. Now, so there is something known as initial state, which we can use to define the initial value of any object inside a state. So what I'm doing is, let's define it as value as initial state as 1 or 0. Let's call it as 0. So timer is 0 right now. So if I show run it right now, so timer should show 0. Now what I want, when this button is clicked, then this timer should be updated to 1. Okay, or next time it should be updated to 2, and next time it should be updated to 3. So basically we would just want to increment the timer. So for that, we have this handler button click. Let's just remove this line, and you see, you remember that here in coeffects, if I go above here, you see that there is something known as update state. Okay, so we will utilize this function basically. So to call that, let's go effect dot update state, and inside that what I need to pass is that the timer variable that I need to update. So I need to update the timer with coefex dot state dot timer, or I can have this variable as here as well, timer, and I can say it as underscore timer plus one. You can do it any way that you want, and then in the same way I'm dispatching this log effect, and this log is basically logging my data. Okay, so let's save this one and let's again deploy it on the machine. It is updated. Let's reload this. It is being reload. So it says that counter is right now 0 because we set our initial value as 0 of timer here. So that's why it is showing at 0. Now let's click it one more time. It says that now 1, and you see that our object is recorded. And if I open this state, so you see the timer is 1, then 2. So another, this time my value is 2. Then as soon as I click, so all these things will update. Okay, so this is pretty awesome. Now what we want, that we want to get the logged in user. Okay, so let us remove this. Let's call it as span logged in user. Let's say logged underscore user, and here logged underscore user in the state. Let's not define the initial value right now. Let's get this logged underscore user once we click the button. So to get this logged underscore user, so there are some components available on window object which give us this value. So that component is, if I render window component here, so inside this window component, I'll go down and there is something known as ux underscore globals. Inside this, I have this pre-source. Inside this, I have this WS user data. Under this data and glide record query. So this is nothing. This is GraphQL. So we will learn how we can call these GraphQLs in ServiceNow. And you see that I'm having this logged in user. So right now I'm logged in as admin. So that's why my username is admin. So let's see if I'm getting my full name here. No, I'm not getting my full name here. But what I can do is I can combine first name and last name. So to get this value is basically window dot ux underscore globals dot resource of user data dot data dot glide record query dot user dot first name. So it says system, and in the same way my last name will give me this value. So let me just copy this, and when my button is being clicked, so what I'm going to do is, let's say let underscore user details equals to, this is my user detail, and with this what I, let's say logged in user is underscore user details dot first name and plus user details dot last name. Let me just confirm these variables name. It is first name and it is last name. Yeah, so first name and last name, and then we will also get our coefficients. So this is pretty much simple. Let us update this one, or you can use ES6 syntax here as well, but right now I'm just using this. Okay, so let's deploy this one. Let me just reload it again. So right now it says that logged in user is empty because right now we don't have anything. Let me just click on this one. As soon as I click, it populates the system administrator as the logged in user. And if I go to my object, where is that? Here is that state. And yay, here in our logged in user, we are having our system administrator. Let's do one more stuff. Let's find some of the basic property or some of the stuff for this logged in user, or not just this. Let's just call a static API and let's just fetch some of the data from ServiceNow. So for that, what we are going to use is we are going to use the table API. So let me open REST API Explorer. And let's get record of one normal incident. Let's get short description of this incident. Okay, let me just copy the sys and here let me pass incident and the sys. Okay, and let us get this data. So we got that data. So what we are going to do right now is from this API we are going to pass the short description and we will show that short description here. So let's copy this number and let's call it as again span short description of incident. Okay, let me indent it correctly. Let's call it a short description and short description. Oh, where my logged in user went. And let's pass this detail into my initial state. Okay, so that we don't query it every time. Let's save logged in user and let's just get the first name. Okay, dot first name. Let's move these data. Okay, for now. So to call the API, we are going to use one underline library which ServiceNow is also using in this project structure, that is Axios. So here I have imported that Axios, and to call Axios API is pretty simple. So as soon as my button is clicked, I call that Axios API, and to call that one is pretty simple. It's Axios dot. So here I need to define the method. Method is get, and then my URL. Let me copy the URL from my API Explorer. Let's call this URL this. Let's copy this. And once my URL is done, there is one important thing known as headers. So this header is an object where I need to pass the authentication. So when I'm doing it in ServiceNow, I can easily use one of the ServiceNow object that is available instead of just passing the username and password. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this X user token, and I'm going to use this at window dot g underscore ck. Oh, and put it inside my token. Okay, so this is done. As soon as this API will call this Axios will call this API, so it's gonna pass me one result object. And right now, just for fun, let me just wow. So let me just put this res onto a console, and it should be arrow function. And after that, we gonna dispatch this coefficient. So let's see that what all the data we are getting in the console. So again, we will just deploy it, reload it. So here it says that my log, oh, we didn't provide any gap between a span. So let's find, till now it is fine. Let's just click on this one. You see that my object is being rendered now, and that object is my REST API output. So in this data, I got this result, and here I'm getting all the stuff. So I need to get this short description from this data. So what I'm going to do is, once my result is obtained, I'll store this short description in one of our component as rest dot. So that is rest dot data dot result, rest dot data dot result dot short underscore description. And once I get this short description, what I'll do is I'll just update this short description with my state variable. So to do that, it's pretty easy. Update state short underscore description with underscore short description. And now we will fire this log effect as well. And here, let me pass one PR. This is done. Now again, it's time to deploy our function. So you see that now our break line is working. Let us clear the screen. Now let's click on this one. Data is being rendered. Where is, so our object is here. It has been done, but where is our short description? Okay, let's see. So we click this on this res, and once it is done, we try to get this data. Oh, it's CRIPTION description. Oh my. And that's what. Let's again deploy this one. It's a pretty silly error. Now it has been deployed. Let us reload it. Let us clear this console again. Click on this. Now we got our short description here in the place. So you see that how easily we can call these APIs and how easily we can do the stuff in custom components. So there is much more to do other than calling API. We can call GraphQL queries as well. ServiceNow has also passed that functions, and even to call the APIs, and instead of utilizing this Axios, ServiceNow has also provided something known as custom HTTP effects, where we can just directly call these APIs. Okay, but that we will see in next series. So till then.